brilliance to prove that this was a lie and wasn't true. And they created their own software program. And they did everything they could to set up a pattern to prove that this was a lie. And all they ended up doing was proving it was true. And then the Pentagon also got in the picture, and the code department of the Pentagon, because this is just really a code, got up and set up, and they put everything that the United States intelligence had on this to see if this was true or not, and they also came up with the conclusion that this is true. They don't know what it means, but it's a fact that it's there. And you can run this computer code in any other book known in existence, even the rest of the Bible, and it won't work. It only works in the first 5 books, which is called the Torah. And now, there's something that I would like to say about this. First of all, it's all based on what's called statistics. And I'll give an example. If you were walking through the forest and you saw a rock sitting beside the little path that you're walking, you wouldn't think anything. That was just a rock, and you keep going. But if you saw another rock balanced on top of that rock, you might stop for a second, but it wouldn't slow you down too long. You just keep right on going. But if you saw a rock with another rock on it, with another rock on top of that, with another one on top of that, and another one, another one, another one, oh, we have little tiny rocks way up in there. You'd stop, and in your mind you would say, some human being did that. You wouldn't even consider that it happened by accident or by nature did it. The odds would be of that just occurring like that would just be too outrageous. And that's the key, the odds. And so that's how the mathematicians are trying to prove all these things. Well, they discovered that, first of all, in statistical mathematics, if something occurs at an odds of 1 to 1,000, it's not considered just a chance, or per chance. It's considered almost for sure human done or consciously done, not just at random. But the odds that they're finding in the Bible code are 1 to 1,000,000 to 1 to 10 million. The odds are so high that it's just right off the scale of possibilities of saying this is true or not true. But still, you've got many, many people out there going, oh, it can't be. They can't accept the possibility that maybe the future was already known. There's another thing I would like to talk about this. I have very little time to talk about it, so I'm going to have to go kind of quickly. And many of you will not know what I'm talking about. But for any of you who have read the Flower of Life book, or for you people who have been through the Flower of Life, you will remember that in the story of the history of Atlantis, we talk about how 2 new ET races merged with our evolutionary pattern during that time. And one of them was the Martians, which we spent a long time talking about, and how they came here against our will, and they're still here, and they're still manipulating through the secret government and the world powers. But that they came from the past. This is the key, that they came from almost 1,000,000 years in the past, coming up to about 60 or 70,000 years ago in our past, and merged with us then. And in terms of what they were doing, it's not too important right now, because what I'm really interested in is the second race, which we only, in the Flower of Life, gave a little passing. We only talked about for a moment. We referred it to like a child who had missed grade 5 and had to do the grade over again. They had misunderstood something, and they had to come here to repeat a grade. And that there was a great asset to us, because they brought knowledge, a higher knowledge that we didn't have before. The knowledge of the hierarchy and the angels and many things that we didn't even know existed at that time, because it was the next grade that we were about to do. And so we kind of didn't say much about it. And when this came up here, I sat in meditation, and the angels came in and said, and gave me an idea of what, or an explanation of what was going on. I will give it to you. You can accept it or throw it away or say it's crazy, but we'll see. They say that the Hebrews are coming from a very distant time in the future, and that they had created a life that was horrible. It was absolutely horrible because they misunderstood something. And the end result was that they were living a life that nobody wants to even talk about. It was horrible. And so at that moment, in a long time in the future, they sat down and they wrote the Torah very carefully from a very high level of consciousness. And they wrote it down, and in the Torah, they were instructed to never change a letter, not one, which is still the way it is with the Hebrews. They're not allowed to change even one letter because it breaks the computer code and it won't work. And then in there, they did something. They did something very unique. And now I'm going to talk about something else for just a second and come back to this. Last year, as everybody has been following this, the Pentagon and everyone else and the world governments and everything, they've all been following this because it's predicting the future exactly to the moment. Something didn't happen. One thing did not occur last year. And that was the Bible, the Torah said that Jerusalem was going to be blown up by an atomic bomb. And it said who was going to do it, by name, how they were going to do it, exactly where, and what day, and the moment when it was going to happen. And it didn't happen. And the whole world went back to the computer code again and ran it back up there and expanded out the matrix to see, because this is the first time they ever saw anything not occurring exactly as was in there. And when they did, up in the top right-hand corner was the word delayed. And underneath that was a statement that they've never seen before. It said, "Will you change this? Will you change this?" What the angels said was, when they wrote the Torah in the future, a long time ago, they programmed into very specific places where the changes had to happen so that they did not end up where they were in this horrible place. And that was the first one that came up last year. And I was in communication with the Hebrew University through email for a while. They were telling me they were supporting this work and everything, and I told them what I'm about to tell you, and I haven't heard from them since. And but I told them they could prove if this was true or not. It's very easy. First of all, there's already proof out there that this existed for a very, very long time. The common belief is that Moses got the Torah from God on Mount Sinai in the year approximately 1250 BC. That's what we've all been told. But that is true, and I'm sure that God gave Moses the copy. But it isn't the first time it was on earth. Because if you read the 12th Planet by Zachariah Sitchin, you'll see that when they unfolded, when they found the ancient Sumerian cities and they brought out the clay tablets of the ancient records of the Sumerians, there was the first book of Genesis written word for word as it is already. So how did they get that? If it was given in 1250 BC, how did they get it in 3000 BC? Or actually 4000 BC? And it's because they had brought it back to Atlantis, and the Sumerians were simply writing down their history. And so you can prove that it existed before that time. Absolutely. It's a matter of science now. It's not a matter of debate. It's real. And but you can also prove the idea that it's coming from the future, because if this is predicting the future, all you got to do is start running the computer ahead in time, and it's going to keep going and keep going and keep going, but you're going to come to a place where it doesn't work anymore, because that's the moment when the Torah was created. It will only have the past. And you see, they wrote the past into the Torah, their past, which was known. But they didn't just write the little bits of like a person's life or things like that. I believe that you will eventually find that what's in there is the Akashic records, right down to every quiver of every leaf, to the very words I'm speaking, to absolutely every single thing. And what they're opening up right now is just the index. That's all it is. You get the person's name, the basic things of their life, their birth and their death. But there's another way of going beneath it using sacred geometry, three-dimensional and hyper-dimensional space, that you can bring out from there every single tiny itty-bitty detail of even a bug walking across the stage will be completely written out there. And if you don't think that's possible, study sacred geometry and how information can be put in there. Because you can show how that an infinite amount of knowledge, as infinite as the entire universe and everything that's going on there, can be put into a little tiny space if you know what sacred geometry really is. And so, is it real? So I'm going to let you contemplate that one for a while, and I wish I had time to go into depth over this, which will be in the book, because there are things going on today that, when put in context of this, you really begin to understand. And this little thing about will you change this is occurring more often now. Because what happened the Israelis got together and they did a thing which changed us and put us on a parallel reality. And that's why the bomb didn't happen. But there's got to be many other changes in the future. And it's not just the Israelis. Interesting enough, the second change took place with the Germans, which they had in their legends. And it was written down that they caused World War II, but they would stop World War III. And you don't know it, but we almost went into World War III over Kosovo. By April 8th, we were to be in Armageddon, and we're not there. At any rate, there are huge things going on, hidden underneath the scenes, and we will succeed. There's absolutely no doubt. We will succeed in this. But it is a tremendous thing that is going on. I would carefully watch this. And you know what? You can even buy the computer code and put it into your computer, and you can find out what's going to happen in your future or anyone else. It'll even convert it into English for you if you want. It's only like $35 or something like that. Just go on the internet, check out Bible code. You can buy it, put it in your thing, and it's a very simple code. And begin to check it. Find out, go a few days in the future, and see if it isn't mapping exactly what's happening in your life in the future. You'll find it's true. You can do it. You don't have to sit there. You can empower yourself in this way. The angels talked about this thing in Kosovo. They came to me. I was in Germany, and they came to me before it happened, before it was in the newspaper or anything. And they told me that the workshop that I was about to give in Germany was going to be the most important workshop I've ever given in my life, ever. And I'd just given one in Switzerland. I was going, well, in my own mind, I'm going, well, what's so important about this one? And they then began to tell me that there was a war that was going to happen, and it would be announced in the world in 2 days, and that it would eventually end up in Armageddon on April 8th if we did not change it. And the sequence of events and all of that were incredible. They were absolutely amazing what happened and all of that, and how the Germans responded to it. They knew exactly what we were talking about. They knew, and they went into a meditation. It was about 100 people, and went into a meditation, and they just merged. They just melted and became deep. I mean, they knew that they were either going to change this, or they were going to end up in another situation almost identical to World War II that they caused. A situation almost the same. And it was very similar in many ways. It was approaching that. And they went in, and for 2 hours, I mean, they just went into the center of the earth, and they were gone. And when they came back out, we didn't know. I mean, I was basically holding my breath to see what would happen on April 8th. And then right after that, the war starts, and all the things began to emerge. But by that date of the 8th, everything began to happen. And there were things in this war that they told me that has not emerged, and I don't even know if I should say it. Oh yeah. I don't know if it's even good to put. It's so horrible. Yugoslavia was connected to Iraq, and this was a joint effort between them. And there was a plan. And the plan had been set up from the original war. Do you remember in the original war with Iraq, where we had them to rights and all of a sudden we just let them go? Why did we do that? Because Iraq had planted anthrax in Jerusalem. And they were going to basically commit suicide to destroy the entire city. And we had to back away. That's why we backed away. And so we went in there trying to get their biological, chemical, and nuclear facilities, knowing that we were trying to stop this. In the meantime, they've been spreading anthrax throughout the world. And they've got these little machines that are sitting in every major city in the United States that all he has to do is dial a telephone call on a cellular phone that releases this into the city. And with a single phone call, he can destroy the whole United States. But he's not doing it. Why? It's because of the Quran. And because of the Quran and the nature of the Muslim religion, he can't do this unless he gets the rest of the Muslim countries to declare jihad or holy war. Otherwise, he would be destroyed himself from his way of seeing this. He can't do it. And so the whole thing was to get the world so uptight about what was going on in Kosovo, and especially the Arab world. And it was getting that way in Turkey. They had during that, just as it began, they had blown up 35 bombs, killing only Germans and Americans. And the whole thing was beginning, and they were waiting for the Muslims to just come together, get so uptight that they just called for jihad, and that was the plan. But it didn't happen. Instead, it wrapped around in a different way, and none of it occurred. And I believe it occurred because of what the Germans did. Only history will be able to tell this. But you could actually put your little computer program in there and find out what was changed and how. Because it's interesting enough, it is written, the changes are written. Time is spherical. We live in a polarized world where we see everything as black or white. It's actually into three. We see everything as good or bad or in the middle, as up and down or in the middle, hot or cold or warm, male and female or child, the sun and the moon and the earth. Everything is broken into three. Our time is past, present, and future. Our space is the XYZ axis. Everything that we do in all the ways we see is in a triangular motion. And it's just one way of perceiving the one reality. And we are about to emerge into another way of perceiving the reality, a lot simpler and easier to understand and perceive, a way that is actually beginning to take place right now. But we're going to have to let this unfold a little bit more today before we can see. So in this first hour and a half, we've talked about the first three phenomena: the UFOs, the crop circles, and the Bible code that is emerging at this time. All of these are indications that a higher level of consciousness is here. The fourth phenomena that we're going to talk about now is a very simple thing. It's just water. And, how can water be a phenomenon? I mean, we drink it every day. It's a very normal, everyday thing. So what? Well, first of all, in Genesis, again, in the very, very, very first sentence of the Bible, it talks about the Spirit of God moving across the face of the waters. What does that mean? And we live on a planet that is almost all water. So we're basically a water planet. Our bodies are made out of water. We're almost all water. Obviously, something's really important here. And what was this whole thing with Jesus, that we had baptism into water? What was that all about? What does it really mean? Well, geometrically, water is something called an icosahedron. This was the thoughts and beliefs of all the ancient ones from Egypt all the way up through Pythagoras and Plato and up to even modern day alchemists, that water has a form or a shape. It's a little polyhedron. It's different than this one that has 20 triangles on it. It's called an icosahedron. And there's another shape that has to do with life force energy itself, which again I defined as prana, which is a Hindu term, or chi, which is a Chinese term, or ether, which is the ancient alchemist point of view, or tachyon, which is a more modern point of view coming out. They're all the same exact thing. There's no difference. They're life force energy itself, and it has a shape. And its shape is something called a pentagonal dodecahedron. It has 12 pentagons put together to form itself. Both of them are two of 5 very special shapes called the Platonic solids. And when you look at something that is equally related, though it doesn't seem to be, the DNA molecule, what has the DNA molecule got to do with these two forms? The DNA molecule is made up of nothing but water and prana. That's all it is. Icosahedron, dodecahedron. It's a reciprocal relationship that forms the double helical strand. At least mathematically and geometrically, it forms it. And so the very essence of life, of how life programs itself, seems to be connected with water and prana, or life force energy. In Georgia, about roughly 10 years ago, they discovered that in the human body, whenever there is an illness or disease, it is always surrounded by what's called unstructured water. And whenever there is a healthy cell, it is always surrounded by structured water. What's the difference? 1 electron. 1 electron, that's the only difference. The unstructured water has its electron, for one reason or another, has been stripped off, and it's the only difference between those two kinds of water. And we are living in a society that has done something that perhaps it's not fully understanding. We've put water through high-pressure pipes. Water moving through high-pressure pipes strips off the outer electrons and turns it into unstructured water. And so all the water that you're drinking that comes out of your faucet, if you drink that, is unstructured water associated with disease. Many people, when they discovered this, people like Patrick Flanagan and Walter Baumgartner and many of the water experts around the world began to realize, well, we've got to come back with structured water. So they began to create all these different ways of doing it. And it's amazing how many ways you can structure water. The easiest, simplest, most rapid way is just with a magnet. Water passes through a certain kind of magnet, bam, it structures it. And that was, I believe it was Patrick Flanagan who figured that one out, but I'm not sure. And so you can take like a swimming pool, if you put a hexagonal magnet on it and run it through there, and you don't have to, if you do it in the right way, if you do it properly, you don't even need to use anything in there because it will keep it fully structured, and you don't end up with all the bacteria, and it won't rip off the electrons. In other words, if you have unstructured water, say in your hot tub, and you've got a piece of metal that's in the, like a handle halfway in the water, you'll start noticing that there's pits all over the handle because the water wants that outer electron, and so it takes it from the metal and pits the metal. Literally takes the electron from the metal and puts it around itself because that's what it wants. It wants to be associated with life. Water running through a river or in a lake naturally is structured. In fact, you can take unstructured water and run it over rocks only about 20 feet, and the falling in the logarithmic spirals structures the water. You can take unstructured water in a jar and just go back and forth about 20, 30 times, and just the flowing back and forth will structure the water, which is the simplest, easiest, most healthiest way to do it if you don't have anything else around. And so there's been a huge debate and scientific awakening around water in the last 10 years or so, and what it all means. In Japan, about 15 years ago, they discovered a brand new water. They never even heard about, never even knew it existed. And they discovered that when a baby is born, and it doesn't matter if it's human or a dog or cat or anything else, when a baby is born, its body is filled with a certain kind of water that's different than any other kind of water. And this water is now being called clustered water. If you look at it under a microscope, it looks like snowflakes, six-sided little patterns. And the baby's body, though it was born with this clustered water, after a short time, it drops it and it goes into a structured form. I'm not exactly sure how long that takes or when that takes. I don't know that little bit of information. And this clustered water, they're finding, is really extraordinary if you drink it. And there are people who sell this. There's all kinds of ways of getting it now. And it's becoming a big deal out in the world. I've been doing this myself to see what it is. It's amazing. It completely changes things in your body, but it's very slow. But if you drink it for 2 or 3 months, you begin to realize that there's something definitely changing within you. That's this water that I've been drinking right here, right now. It's clustered water. And it's a good thing. It appears to be a very, very good thing. Though the Japanese are way into it more than the Americans are. We're just becoming aware of it, of what it does. In Chile and Japan and a few other places, I believe Russia also, they've discovered something else, that you can add one more electron to the water and call it ionized water, and that it has amazing properties. Truly, truly amazing properties. And it does things that no one's ever seen before. And that research is continuing on all over the world right now. But recently, actually it was 14 years ago, in Turkey, there was a man there named Ayhan Dayak, who is a Sufi master, who has created, in some form or fashion, which he will not say exactly how he's doing this, a water that no one has ever seen before, and which is very, very difficult to explain. The difference in this water is it has 3 extra electrons. And this water is being called super ionized water. This water is going to change the world beyond anybody's imagination. We were never going to be the same when this water goes out. It's going to just sweep the world and do things that no one can you wouldn't even believe it. In fact, the scientists that have read the data don't believe it. They just don't believe it. Even when they see it with their eyes, they don't believe it, with what I'm about to tell you. And but it's here. It's emerged into the world. What is this thing about electrons? Why is it so important? Well, it appears as though electricity and prana are related. There definitely appears to be a relationship between the two. It was Andrew Cross in 1837 who first discovered something that has been duplicated since then by people like Wilhelm Reich and in even more in modern day times, that appears to be almost like a miracle. You see, for a long time, we thought that life began in pools of water with nucleic acids and proteins that merged together and did all these kinds of things, right? This was the belief. It's no longer the belief in modern day science right now. They don't believe that anymore. They believe one thing, that it only takes 2 elements to come together to make life: water and electricity, period. It's all that's necessary. Nothing else. No molecules, no nothing else. And Andrew Cross in 1937 did an experiment. He put water into a container and he put a crystal in the water, and he ran a low voltage electricity through the water. And he left it there for a very, very long time, because initially nothing happens. A week went by, nothing, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. somewhere around a month or two, it takes a long time, this phenomenon begins to happen. And you can repeat this if you're scientifically inclined. Etched onto the side of the crystal, it appeared to be that somebody etched a bug on there with 8 little legs and like that, but it appeared to be etched on. And there were several of them all over it. And then as time went on, several weeks went by, the bug became a relief rather than just etched on. It became a relief out. And then after a while, the bug starts crawling around the crystal. And a little while later, the bug starts swimming through the water. And a little while later, it goes to the surface and flies away. They have scientifically witnessed this.
What kind of bug?
I don't know. This article actually was just recently rewritten in Nexus magazine last month, so you can go in there and read that information. But it's just a bug. It's just a little bug with 8 little legs, and they don't know if it's the only one. There may be other things, but life came out of this water, and they can use not just crystals too. They can use rocks, from what I understand, stones. But life appeared out of this solution with nothing but water and electricity and a piece of matter inside of it. And what we're now beginning to realize is that electricity and water appears to be the key to life itself. And so in Turkey, they made this water that is super ionized, and it has 3 extra electrons. Well, you say, well, so what? 3 extra electrons. Well, the so what is that if you have a glass, and this is the water right here, by the way, but it's being diluted, this water right here. If you took this in its what's called the mother formula in its pure form, right as it's created, before it's diluted with other water, you could take a lamp, take the plug, stick it in it, and it'll light the lamp up brighter than if you put it in the wall. And it'll do it for a very, 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 very long time. It's literally just pure liquid electrons flowing through this water. And so about several months ago, I got going further back, in Germany last year, I gave a talk on the environmental cleaning work that we've been doing around the world. And I don't know what I said there, but I guess I inspired the people from Turkey that were sitting in there, and they decided that they wanted to show me what they were doing. And they tried to get me for months and months and months and months, but I was so busy, I just couldn't do it. It was just impossible. So they said they were going to send someone over to Florida to give a demonstration where I please show up, but I couldn't. I don't remember what it was, but I couldn't. So I sent someone that I work with, a man named Slim Sperling. And I know Slim, and I know he's honest and pure, and I know that whatever he saw, I could rely on. So Slim went to see this demonstration. And Slim, for those of you who know him, I always call him sort of like the cowboy Merlin. He's with cowboy clothes with a long beard, and he's amazing with his energy and prana. He can heal people, and he's incredible with what he can do. And he's very slow in talking. He's got a kind of a little oaky drawl, and he talks about it. And he calls me up the first day, and he was talking rather fast. And he goes, this is really pretty good stuff. God, it's not slow I know. And the next day he calls me up, and he's so excited he couldn't even talk. He says, I'm so high, I can never come down. He's going on and on. Actually, it was something like, I'm higher than a hog, something or other. I don't know. And I go, what is going on over there? He says, you can't believe what's going on here. And so he told me I really needed to see this. So relying on that, the Air Force a long time ago, which used to try to stop everything I was doing. I mean, they really tried to stop me, along with the CIA and the FBI, but they don't anymore, thank God. And they finally assigned someone to me. And that person is involved in the Air Force's EPA And I told him, I said, I'd like you to set up something in Washington, D.C. To do this. Well, they really set it up. They brought in the FBI, the CIA, the United States Air Force, and 15 major agencies of the government with their head scientists there. I mean, these are really famous people that were in that room. And me. And this guy, Ayhan Doyak, who's the Turkish man, who's really just like a child. He's a very innocent person, and he's not really a scientist, but he was there. And we witnessed chemical reactions that are considered by all known chemists in the world as being absolutely and totally, completely and utterly impossible. But it happened over and over and over again. The first thing they did is they took, the government took 2 big beakers of polluted water. One of them looked like it came out of a cesspool. It was brown, it smelled like human waste, and there was stuff floating in it, and it was horrible. And the other one looked like they took it out of some chemistry lab. It was sort of yellowish green and sort of glowed. And smelled like gasoline. And I didn't want to get near either one of them. They put them real high on a thing, and he says, I could make this happen instantly within 3 seconds, but I'm going to do it in a different way, because when we clean up a lake or a river, we have to spray it on, and it slowly comes down. You can't mix it up. So he laid a little tiny bit of water on the surface of each of those 2 things, and then he went back over to show something else. The first thing he showed us was he took a can of motor oil, opened it up, fresh one, poured it into a little beaker about that much, took 3 or 4 drops of this water, put it in, shook it up, and in that long, the oil no longer exists on planet Earth. It completely converted the oil into proteins and amino acids and fatty acids, which is fish food. And it did it instantly at room temperature. And this is pretty amazing. What's really amazing to me about this is the analogy of what this really means. Oil is the end of life. Millions and millions and millions of years of plant life and human life and growth life and animal life all being swished down into the stuff we call oil. And here, this water comes in contact with it, and matter instantly converts it into the beginning of life, the proteins and amino acids. It goes from black to white. The stuff is a white substance. And the old one no longer exists, just by coming in contact with this water. I then watched for 5 hours one chemical reaction after another that were impossible. But what began to emerge, very subtly at first and then very more and more obvious, is the water was conscious and aware on a very high level of existence. It would go into a reaction, and it would know exactly what to do, and it didn't care what the rules were. It would convert it to whatever was good for life, period. And it would always leave the solution back at 7.0 pH, no matter where it started. Neutral. No matter where it started, and no matter what the reaction was or what the chemistry was for. It always knew exactly what to do, and it would go into one reaction with oil and do that, but in another situation, it would go into oil and do something entirely different. That we gave a demonstration to 15 major media newspapers and television stations in California recently. And when the reporter saw it doing one thing and then doing something totally different in the same solution later, this one guy stood up and goes, Mr. Doyak, it seems like that's conscious. I mean, how can it do this in one thing and do this in another one when it seems to know what it's doing? And for the first time, Ayhan says, he says, it is. And all the whole audience stood up and clapped. They were so excited because they realized that this is something that is as extraordinary as the Bible code, where the future is being known, it appears as though God is coming into this. I can't tell you everything right now, but I'll try. But it appears as though God is coming in the form of water. This consciousness is so high, it's truly extraordinary. And the more we learn about it, the more ridiculous it is. And so they went into the Bay of Izmir in Istanbul, which is the most polluted body of water in the world. The bay looks like oil. It's black. It's got bubbles on top. It looks like oil. It does not look like water at all. It's so polluted. And they took this and put it in these two big tanks. One was the control, and one was the other one. And they just poured in a couple gallons of this water, and they mixed it up. And they watched as this water went from black to clean, to cleaner, to clean, until it was crystal clear. Meanwhile, in those two beakers that were sitting on there, I watched, and so did this whole room full of people, as the water went slowly down, 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 and what was above looked like distilled water, until it was all the way down at the bottom, and it was crystal clear. There was no pollution in the water at all. And then they took a fish out of the aquarium that was downstairs and put it in when it was one of the beakers. And this fish swam around actually for about 3 hours while we did all these other things like that. And Arjen said, if there's anything in there, it's going to kill the fish. And the fish was fine. What was interesting is that after this was all over, they took the little fish out and they put it back into the aquarium. The next morning when they came in, the aquarium was crystal clear. Just from the little bit of water that was on the body or on the mouth of the fish. The United Nations has now entered into this one. So has Russia and 8 other major countries. They're about to do a $1.4 billion showcase in Turkey and to show things. They can actually go into a desert where there is no water and no life and no nothing and spray this water on the soil, a special version of it, and the whole thing changes, the climate changes, and it turns the desert into a lush area. This water is so conscious that it makes the weather change and brings water to a desert. We're going to demonstrate this and prove it to the world. The United Nations and the World Bank is involved in this, backing this up. And so what's happening here, folks? What about, and I didn't talk about this before, but I'm going to now, because at this point I'm just sort of pulling all the stops. What happens if you drink it? Well, I don't know, but according to the people who are in Turkey, and this is hearsay, that when the water goes in, it just removes all diseases from the body, period, in the end, and brings that person back. It's like baptism with water. It just brings it all back. And it's an interesting analogy, too, because in baptism you can only do it once, right? With this water you can only do it once. You can only drink so much of the water, and then you can't drink any more of it for the rest of your life. Nobody knows why. Only that's the way it is. And so, according to them, their statements is that they have cured every disease known to man and over 10,000 people in Turkey just drinking this water. What's that going to mean to the world? What's it going to mean to the world when this water can go into any body of water and clean it? The water goes right through a body of water like a bay, even if it's hundreds and hundreds of feet deep, cleans it totally clear, goes into the sediment, 90 feet into the sediment, and on either side, and removes all toxins and brings it back to the way it was 10,000 years ago. And this is real. This is not a fantasy. This is not Steven Spielberg. This is the real thing, and it's actually happening on our planet today, right now. And you can spray it on a garbage dump. It'll instantaneously put out all the fires, the methane fires, and over a period of just a few days, it only takes 4 days, it sterilizes it, including including AIDS and cancer and everything else. It totally sterilizes it and converts all the chemicals into organic fertilizer. It's conscious, folks. It knows what to do. And they've done this, and they've watched how out of this garbage, everything is transformed into organic fertilizer, and all these plants, apple trees, tomato plants, and all these things are coming out of this from nowhere. Who knows where it's coming from? Whatever reaction it goes into, it always knows what is best for life. And it always does exactly the right thing. When we were doing research before, and I need to bring this up because some of you know the work we were doing for several years. We came into this place here, Denver, in 1984, and Denver was incredibly polluted at that time. And we began to run, with Bob Dratch and Slim Sperling, began to run a waveform pattern of a substance, which I'll explain in a moment, through something called a tensor, which is really just an antenna that affects the gravity waves in space, and was able to, through a new science, which many people call voodoo science, because they don't believe it, though it works, they were able to change the atmosphere over Denver, and for 1 year of 1995, Denver became the cleanest in all recorded history. And then when they stopped it, and then during that year, by the way, you were receiving 30,000 people a month into this city. And the governor, the city, the mayor, because, or whoever it was, the EPA here, because it was so clean, dropped all the rules and told all the people, just pollute all you want. So they went crazy. They were just going for it because it was so clean. And then when they dropped the rules in the middle of 1996, by the end of 1996, it was so polluted again that they had to reinstate all those rules. The EPA would not admit that we had anything to do with this, and that's another whole subject, which really is not important to get into right now. Well, what was this substance that they were broadcasting out in the water? What it was a rain cloud. Right as it was ready to dump water, and right as it was shooting electricity, lightning out of it. Nobody really knows this subject, but is a rain cloud really superionized water? Is it conscious? Is it aware? Trees are aware. Lots of things are aware. NASA has discovered that everything is conscious, by the way. They discovered that not only is everything a hologram, but everything is alive. They know this for sure. Everything, even a beer can. It's alive, it's conscious, and it's evolving. Everything is evolving. Everything is going, including human life, is moving through very specific steps that shows that, without exception, every molecule in existence is a living molecule and it's alive. And this is science that's come up to this conclusion. And a rain cloud, when it's filled with this electrical charge, it brings life. It's the bringer of life to land. Without those rain clouds, there'd be no life on this land. It'd be dry, barren. It brings the life to the land. And so it just so happened that we were using the same vibration, we think it is anyway, as the superionized water that Turkey has come up to. They've just learned how to stabilize that energy into a bottle like this right here. And so this little substance, this little vibration that's in this bottle, you don't actually have to drink it to make it work. This is the other thing that we're discovering. You can, in the same way that psychic energy works, which we're going to be discussing here in a little bit, all knowledge is known to everybody in this room. You know everything in existence. There isn't anything that you don't know. You know everything that's going on in every planet, and every little bug on the ground. You know what they're all thinking. It's all in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is connected, first of all, to the earth and the biosphere. Your subconscious mind is not only yours, but it belongs to all people on existence, including all the other life, animals, and everything else, the biosphere. And the superconscious mind is everything else. And you can, or that's the lower self and the higher self, if you want to talk about it like that. And you have access to all knowledge. And there's other ways to access knowledge than the normal ways that we think. And so simply by this existing on earth now, it's accessible to you through meditation. You can make changes within yourself simply by knowing that it exists. And this is one of the things that in actual meditation we're going to talk about. The first part of this is sort of a lecture between here and now. The next part we're going to give demonstrations and show you directly and go into meditation to give you the ways to bring this into your lives. And so there's different ways to do it. You can bring this water into you without ever touching it. And simply because it's here, it's in the grids, it's known, it's there already. I don't believe it was here though prior to 14 years ago, not in this kind of form. It may have been in a rain cloud, but I don't think it was in this kind of form. And so when you begin to look at these the sequences of events that we've been talking about here, where you have the UFOs appearing suddenly all over the world, but of course they're not real, and the crop circles that are appearing all over the world, and of course that's Doug and Dave doing that one. And suddenly, at the same time, in a very short sequence of years, you have another emerging phenomena of the Bible unfolding itself, revealing that the past and the present and the future are already known. This begins to change the equation of life as we know it. And when there's new water emerging onto the earth that can heal anything, either bodies or people or planets or the whole thing, it's obvious, to me anyway, that we're not in the normal ballgame that we were in before. There's something a lot bigger going on than we know. And but there's even something more important going on. More important than this. I feel it's more important, which has to do with the children and what's emerging in the lives of these children. And I'm going to begin talking about this now, though I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to complete this or not. I'll do my best here to complete it. I'm not sure. It seems that this fifth phenomena is coming from outside the system. Actually, all of these things are probably coming from outside the system, but this one definitely appears to be this way. There are children appearing in the world now, and this is not a little thing. There's a lot of them that have made a change in the very structure of their existence, in the DNA molecule itself, and they are not human beings. 3 new human races have now appeared on Earth that have different DNA than ours. They're not human. And I believe they are not even coming from here. They're coming from a much higher level of existence. They're coming down here to help us transition at this time. But these kids are really different than what we know. I'm going to need to turn the slides back on just for a moment. Or I guess it is back on, isn't it? This first group of children, nobody's written about until just recently. And this book here, one minute, I've got to say one more thing first. Keep forgetting. I'm bringing this book up not because of the diet that's in it. That's another subject, and I'm not concerned with that. There's something that was written in this book that is important for us to understand, and it has to do with the blood types. There are 4 blood types. We all know this. There's O, there's A, there's B, and there's AB, and there's no others. And but what's interesting in this is that for millions of years, up until 15,000 years ago, there was only one blood type, type O. And we were all hunters and eaters of meat, period. No matter what we look like out here, no matter where we were in the world, we were all related by a single blood type. If you were Chinese or African, or didn't make any difference where you existed, there was just one single fluid that moved through us all. And then 15,000 years ago, something happened. We became farmers. Basically, that was it. We started eating a new kind of food, and new kinds of food. And we quit eating meat, and we started going, well, not maybe totally, but we started going into eating grains and all kinds of other things that we never ate before. And there are some that feel that there was also climate changes that could have affected this too. But what did happen was the DNA changed. Human DNA changed overnight to something brand new. Before the blood changed, the DNA changed first, then the blood changed. And there was a DNA change. And so people that have a type O blood have a different DNA than those that have type A. And they also have different stomachs, different pH levels, all kinds of things that are different about these two kinds of people. And what they were doing was they were adapting to the new reality of a new kind of food being emerged in a new kind of climate. And then further down the line, there was another switch, and I understand this one less, but which resulted in type B blood, which is another DNA change. And then more or less recently, there was another DNA change where it went to AB. And the immune systems are totally different on all 4 of these things. And they're a different kind of people. They have different needs and everything else, because they're really, what's now the end result of all of this is there's 4 kinds of people in the world. Regardless of what they look like on the outer surface, there's 4 different human DNAs that are associated with humanity. Well, we're in the midst of another one of these big changes. What we're experiencing here on Earth right now is the biggest change that anyone has ever experienced on this planet, at least in any kind of memory that we ever have. We're not only experiencing dramatic weather changes that are beginning to occur, but we are eating totally different. And we're eating the world's foods, which has never happened before, not on this level. We have access to anything. You can eat Thai food or Chinese food or anything else and from them. And these things affect you because you are what you eat. And there's huge effects, but there's other things going on. The technological society, the industrial revolution that has occurred that's ended up in this technological way of being is something that has never been seen before. In 1900, there were 30 million species of life on this planet. Today, 100 years later, there's half of that. Half of the world has died in a geological blink of an eye. It's gone. And it's still going really fast. No one's ever seen anything like that. It took hundreds and hundreds of millions of years to get to those 30 million species, and in a matter of minutes and seconds, half of the life of this planet is dead because of our technology. Our technology is anti-life. It is doing everything it can to destroy life on this planet as fast as it can. And believe me, it's really doing a good job. And the water is interesting because the water actually will allow the dark and the light, the technological aspect that was available to, that we all are addicted to, this will allow us to continue. We can still pollute all we want because the pollution will not affect the environment. We can continue to move, and who knows what that influence is going to have on us out here, especially if it means the end of all disease and everything else. This is these are factors that we can't put into the equation right now because it's too complex. But what we do know